il a supporté avec un bas stress, il mort. But moi les savent, les moun Adam ka rejoice. La mon pani rejoice, nous ni pour tout bout éveillon et l'autre, qui nous bien, qui nous fâche éveillon et l'autre. But là nous ka rejoice, moi les mande, on est dans Paris là, avec tout le monde Dominique, who next? Who next after Pierre or before Pierre? Who next? Nous pièces pas ça dit who next? Because c'est un seul nom qui en fif. C'est nom là qui en l'air dit Almighty Father.
Est-ce que vous avez confiance donc tu as l'autre membre?
Oui, mon ai confiance. Because go beni assez nom qui ça doubout. Même mieux pas que fait quoi mais que doubout avait en bas loi avait en bas avis. Mon ka hope yo que ça fait.
C'est que des relations avec Pierre Charles.
Ouais, relation avec Pierre Charles depuis mon levé petit mon connaître Pierre Charles. Grand-maman c'était un fimiez. Pierre Charles te calé l'école, avait te calé garder côté grand-maman avant nous te monter venir garder côté grand-maman. Any blessing grand-maman when it la venir. Tout temps when it a du bouton là. Pierre qui gagne election mais il still allé mais on l'autre qui replace lui. Because c'est pas Pierre yon qui a tapé problème en dans Gombe. Mouche Roland Saint Close. Yo by endless tragedy. Yo by endless bataille. Yo pas te kabay rien pour Gombe. Oh, grand-papa,
oui,
that's it. Oh, ok, moi bien content, mon jeune éveil. Là, mon cher Elan retire. Yo te assez méchanceté. Yo mette porte, mon cher Elan dedans. L'école Gouambe, montre certificat li. Tout ça était commandé pour Gouambe, yo pas te kabali. Mais Pierre te ka goumé. Mon ka hop, si l'autre moun après Pierre, il a double te puis goumé pour nous tous. On dit Dagouambe avant dans the whole parish of Dominica. Mon ka oui merci.
Merci.
Et mon ka just sing unto him. Ba monsieur Pierre Charles.
Allez.
Amaze. Mon oui mais mon ka dit. Ma ka trop long avec mais mon ka dit ici. Amazing grace, a sweetest love. I love you. Mon passage pile mon oui. It's okay.
Merci.
Merci. Mon oui ma salle plus.
The Grand Bay community was in a state of shock on Wednesday following the news of the passing of the Prime Minister and their parliamentary representative, Honorable Pierre Charles. Mr. Charles died at the Princess Margaret Hospital on Tuesday evening after he was taken there for treatment after complaining of chest pains. Take two. The Grand Bay community was in a state of shock on Wednesday following news of the passing of the Prime Minister and their parliamentary representative, Honorable Pierre Charles. Mr. Charles died at the Princess Margaret Hospital on Tuesday evening. He was complaining of chest pains on Tuesday afternoon and was rushed to the Princess Margaret Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Throughout the community, people could still not believe the news that their beloved parliamentary representative had died.
Communauté Gouambe te Moun en communauté Gouambe te autant choc yo swela autant contre la mort Premier Ministre Pierre Charles. Premier Ministre Charles a mort en l'hôpital Princess Margaret yo swela bon yuite people en l'année là Premier Ministre Charles te fait plainte contre mal en Tchèque. Autant moun a Gouambe passe à Coupon Koyo qui Premier Ministre pays là avec moun là qui a représenté yo en parlement vraiment mort. Non moi c'est Mac Fouzen Saint-Louis qui a fait rapport ça là à la communauté Gouambe pour service information gouvernement. Merci.
And I was 18 years. The Grand Bay community was in a state of shock on Wednesday following the news of the passing of the Prime Minister and their parliamentary representative, Honorable Pierre Charles. The Grand Bay community was in a state of shock on Wednesday Following the news of the passing of the Prime Minister and their parliamentary representative, Honorable Pierre Charles, Mr. Charles was pronounced dead at the Princess Margaret Hospital after he complained of chest pains earlier in the evening. Throughout the community, the people could not believe that the man who had worked hard for the development of Grand Bay for 18 years had passed away. Okay. Grand Bay residents are hoping that they will be able to get another parliamentary representative as dedicated to their development as the late Pierre Charles. For National Focus, I am Maricla Williams. Okay, you have just spoken or prayed with the family of the late Pierre Charles. What sort of advice would you like to give them, or some words of encouragement, anything right now?
The mortality of men kind of puts us to the place where things like this happen, and sometimes you don't really plan for it. But the mere fact that man is mortal, things like this happen. And in this times, the most one could do is just offer prayers, offer comfort in words, and that's basically what I did. It's a situation we can't reverse. It's a situation like we'd have to face at any point. What makes it maybe more painful, we know what he went through. We know all of what he has been, have been going through, and his office. Sometimes there's an awe of something like that may not happen, but it happens. And in cases like this, we just have to constantly encourage people, and that's simply what I did. Prayed for them, encourage them, because that's what they need now more than anything else. Comforting word, maybe not a whole long speech, but just the assurance that we're here with you and God will take care of stuff. And basically, that's what I need, and I think that's what the family needs. It's not a time for us to maybe look at what could have, because it's too late now in that way. So that's basically what I offered, And to them, I would just constantly say, rest in the Lord, rest in His peace, rest in His grace, and He who knows best will comfort them the most, because that's what He is, the God of all comfort. All right? So, yeah, welcome.
Ready? Ready? Okay. Mr. Graneau, following the passing of Prime Minister Mr. Graneau, following the passing of Prime Minister Pierre Charles on Tuesday evening, how did you take the news?
Well, I remember it drove me back a few years ago to the news when we heard that our first late Prime Minister, Rosie, had died. I had almost the same reaction. I said, no, that's not true, because I was with the late Prime Minister up to 5 o'clock at a cabinet meeting. And by 7:45, you get the news that, the man is no longer with you. It's just disbelief. That was my first reaction until I got to the hospital and I saw him myself lying there. And I had to brace myself to the reality that, yes, the late Prime Minister was no longer with us. But it went down pretty hard, I must say.
How do you think this is, or do you think this is going to affect the Labour Party in any way?
Not really. If you saw what happened, or if you listened to what happened yesterday at Mount Daniel at our caucus, I mean, it clearly showed that the Labour Party is very mature. We've been down that road. We've gone down that road more than once, and it's like history was repeating itself on us, and it showed the level of commitment that the Labour Party parliamentarians and executive management has towards the development of the country. So, yes, it might be a temporary setback, but I don't think it's going to really affect the onward movement of the Labour Party.
A new Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, is being sworn in this morning. What is your impression of Mr. Skerrit as the new Prime Minister of Dominica?
Well, Skerrit and I struck up a friendship from the word go. I mean, Skerrit was unknown to me when I got into the political arena. And that friendship continued all for the 4 years. I mean, Skerrit and I live in Mourns. We were neighbors. Every morning he wakes me up, Graneau, come have coffee, you know. So we have that relationship, and more than that too, probably on many times you've heard Skerrit's pronouncements that he's somebody that is very close to the Carib people, and I feel very comfortable with a new Prime Minister in the person of Mr. Skerrit, who is going to continue the work that the late Prime Minister started in relation to uplifting and giving the Carib people a new status in the scheme of things here. So I feel very, very comfortable with Skerrit as my Prime Minister and consequently my Minister of Carib Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graneau. Cool.
Et puis, même parlement pour un pays Carib, Honorable Kelly Graneau. Monsieur Graneau, nous savons que le dernier Premier ministre Pierre Charles est mort plus mon semaine. Ça vous dire comme ça, s'il vous plaît.
Eh bien, comme je just dit là, Macpherson, ça même c'est un grand soupir. Et puis, soupir à une manière où là, il y a autant de nous qui pas quand même ça quoi. Puis il fait tellement à une manière là, comme on dit, nous et puis le Premier ministre là, up to Saint-Cher, mardi au soir, en cabinet, et puis avant il était au Catan, non, là pas là, non, là, il rush l'hôpital et il est mort. Et puis c'est un bail qui, comment dire, fait changer les nouvelles Rosie, les Rosie mort, mon pas de quoi ça, moi même pas de quoi ça, même les mon ouais, il m'a de quoi ça. Et puis même mon ouais Pierrot là couché là, il parle et puis nous et puis il était ouais pleurer là pas de venir mais il était en dedans, moi pleurer en dedans puis m'a ça quoi nous ça tapé en situation qui tellement weird juste après nous juste passer yon.
Monsieur Graneau, nous savons que monsieur le ministre là qui a une responsabilité pour les affaires d'éducation, Roosevelt Skerrit, c'est qui pour le ministre à présent. Ça, on vous dit comme ça, s'il vous plaît.
Eh bien, pour moi, mon cas de mon cas Skerrit on le support là, 100 et puis 50% support. Puis ça, Skerrit, c'est un monde, depuis moi, tout en politique, ça là. Depuis, sorry, les want en politique là, nous-mêmes, nous sommes bons amis, bons amis. Nous avons été Bruce là tous les beaux matins, comme on a levé tous les beaux matins, nous avons des cafés ensemble, nous avons parlé, nous avons quitté les fois, nous avons quitté hang là, et nous avons discuté avant de aller en travail. So, et puis, Skerrit déjà motivé. Ça a déjà aidé moi en constituency en manière d'éducation. L'école, c'est l'école là, mon cas senti que c'est un homme qui est debout pour peuple Carib là. So, pour moi, je me sens bien confortable. Il a continué le travail là. Le Prime Minister Pierre fait nous en reconnaissance. Je pense que ça un marche plus haut en actual bagaille. Oui, reconnaissance là c'est yon, mais nous n'y pour son basse pour nous avancer. Et puis moi ce que a servi basse là. Le Prime Minister Pierre est établi dans nous en pays Carib là pour avancer pratiquement. Oh là, nous avons projet commencer à marcher, nous avons attendre ces gens plus connaître quand yo problème yo comment nous s'adresser. So moi c'est un homme qui ni pays Carib là entier et puis pour moi bien content.
Je parle pour pays Carib, Honorable Kelly Graneau, merci autant pour parler avec nous.
Merci Marc, c'est un plaisir.
First of all, Mr. Albert, can you give me your reaction to the PM's death earlier this week?
Well, it's one of the saddest moments again in our history. I think all of us were taken aback by his passing away. we never really expected that is the way that the PM would have left us. Um, I being close to him in recent time, most of us, knowing that he was already in the position of looking for someone to succeed him, and he had put us through that challenge. And during the course of this week, by him putting us towards that challenge, happened to be the week that he, of course, had to pass away on us. It left, I mean, it left us with great disappointment within ourselves in terms of having to lose him, and of course lose, this is Rosie Douglas just a few years ago, and having to put us through the challenge again, or having to rebuild. And I mean, it's not an easy task for us in the Labour Party, and particularly myself, to have to be making all these kind of adjustments. But you know, we really want to make sure that we continue the work that, of course, he has started, and ensure that do what he would have done if he was in the position that we are in now.
And we are now seeing the swearing in of a new Prime Minister, Roosevelt Skerrit, this morning. Um, how do you feel Skerrit, or do you think Skerrit has the capacity to fill in Mr. Charles' shoes?
Well, I've been around with Skerrit and the other members of the Labour Party for the number of years that we've been in power. And I have looked around and see that Skerrit has been one of the persons, as a young man, who've taken the Ministry of Education and have demonstrated his ability to ensure that this ministry is maintained within a capacity that has been respected both by opposition and government. And to date, he is coming in, and one of the things that I must say this morning, I heard the Honorable Patrick John, you know, gave his support to Roosevelt Skerrit. And that means a lot to me when you have someone, of course, who was considered to be one of the youngest premier of Dominica, now giving his support behind the Roosevelt Skerrit, endorsing him. I have to admit that he is young, but certainly has the qualities of someone who can mobilize the people and the country. And the important thing there to note is that after the passing away of the Honorable Pierre Charles, that the political executive and members have come together and really rallied their support in a tremendous way. And he was elected by the elected members of parliament, which of course has endorsed him and ensure that he remains there in the political leadership and that he can take us through. I have confidence, I have all confidence that he will do a good job as long as we continue to give him our support.
So you don't think, despite the fact that he's young and virtually little experience, that will affect his ability to lead the country?
Well, my position is that,
Just a moment.
okay, my position is that
Hello.
Well, I'm there watching.
Happy New Year, sir.
Professor, man. he has more room. And yeah. Don't remind him. Up it comes out. Defects. They came. They came. I told them at 11. But I told her not to go in. You want to say a few words? Cecil, a few words? What, may want to say something, I'll have to find out from you.
No, let him do something at the Prime Minister's office.
Ready? Ready? All right, let me see. Let me. Excuse me. Let me say, first of all, good morning to all of us and to all Dominicans listening this morning. We are here in some difficult times, in some sad situation where our late Prime Minister, Honorable Pierre Charles, has passed away. And I wish, on behalf of government and the people of Dominica, express our sincere condolences to his family, friends, supporters of the Dominican Labour Party and all Dominicans. The leadership that I'll provide to Dominica is one of inclusion. The country requires the unity, cooperation and understanding of everyone. Dominica is not Roosevelt Skerrit Dominica, it is not the Labour Party Dominica, but it is Dominicans Dominica. And I think if we're interested in the development of Dominica, we will all rally behind the government of Dominica to ensure that our children, our future, to enjoy. Our children need the guidance and leadership to ensure that they can grow up as mature adults in Dominica. We need to hit the streets to meet with young people who have not taken up the challenge of improving themselves. And I can assure the young people of Dominica that they will have the support from the highest level. Special attention will be given to the youth and to the children and to the elderly, who are the most vulnerable among us. And I think if we do not pay special attention to the youth of Dominica, or Dominica is in trouble. Education must also continue to be given the attention that it has received under this government. Because human resource development is indeed important for country's development. If your people are not skilled and trained, we can't expect to develop our capacity in this country. My dear friends, I am your Prime Minister. And I shall not promise you silver and gold, but I shall promise you simple leadership, leadership of the people, by the people, for the people. And trust me, I shall do that. In that vein, I'm calling all the churches, and I'm saying that I'm declaring Sunday as a national day of prayer for peace, unity, and togetherness in Dominica. And on Monday morning, we shall instruct all schools in Dominica to to use the first hour to pray for peace among the youth, for non-violence, fight against drugs, and HIV/AIDS. So all schools in Dominica will use the first hour for this. And I urge all the churches to cooperate with the schools by going to the schools to assist with the prayer session. Parents must take the responsibility for the education of people. We cannot hold the government responsible for everything that goes wrong in society. It has to be a collective responsibility. 40 years ago, we spoke about the education pie, but now we have all the teachers educating our children. Our parents must pay special attention to the children. And I feel very passionate about education because I know how important it is for one's personal development and for the country's development. We must continue to give our support to our farmers also, and to ensure that they become more productive, and to ensure that the resources that the state provides to the farmers are used wisely and properly for the benefit of the families and for the country. We'll continue to pay attention to the infrastructure under difficult circumstances, my dear friends. One should not expect too many things, but the little that we have, we must be proud of it as Dominicans. Many of us are quick to criticize what's happening in Dominica and have the impression that other parts of the world, everyone is employed. We hear of rising unemployment in many parts of the world that are much more developed than ours. And I have seen poverty in many developed countries I have not seen in Dominica. But we have many things that we should be proud of. Dominicans are a proud people. They are dedicated and committed people. And I trust that this spirit of goodwill will continue among us. I have no difficulty, my dear friends, with the talk shows. Let them continue. It's freedom of speech, it's a democratic society. But I urge the callers that let us pay more attention to constructive criticism. Criticism that will help to aspire the leadership of the country. But mark you, I shall not pay attention to destructive criticism. We have to remain focused and committed to a path of development in this country. And I know there are all of us in Dominica are good-thinking Dominicans, but sometimes we allow our own personal vendetta to get to the fore of our good thinking. I trust that we will pray to God and use Psalm 23 as our guide. May God bless Dominica. May God bless our people. Long live Dominica, my friends. And I look forward to a leadership of inclusion. I shall consult, I shall seek to consult everybody who wants to be consulted. But at the end of the day, my dear friend, you will get many, many suggestions, but you can never use all of them. If we do not use your suggestion, it is not that we did not consider it. It just maybe somebody else gave a better suggestion, and we have to understand that. Long live our people. May God bless all of us all. The work has to be done. I expect, hopefully, God willing, and good sense prevailing, we shall appoint the cabinet by tomorrow morning. Thank you very much, my dear friends.
What is first on your agenda as the Prime Minister of Dominica? First on your agenda.
The first on the agenda is to meet my colleagues. I'm inviting the bishop. I'm inviting a couple of the pastors in Roseau to meet with us, to pray for this country, to pray for unity and understanding among us all. So the first order of business is to head back to government headquarters, where we shall meet with the bishop and some other pastors to pray for Dominica. Because I believe, my dear friends, that as a people, we must pray hard. And we must bring God to the center of what we do. Yes, I will do my best, and I will leave the rest to the good Lord to decide for Dominica.
You are the youngest Prime Minister ever in terms of the Caribbean region. How do you feel about it? People are concerned about your youthfulness.
Well, my dear friend, Jesus was 12, and Jesus was 12, and he stunned many scholars. I am young, but I have an understanding of what needs to be done in Dominica. And I am trained both by the British and the Americans. The British say